So basically, a passenger was slapped with a $1.8 thousand fine after an airport canine sniffed out a McDonald's meal. Like, what a really pricey, $1 menu item. So, a passenger flying from Bali, Indonesia to northern Australia has been slapped with a $1,874 fine after a police dog sniffed his bag and found two McMuffins and a ham croissant. The passenger, whose identity has not been released, had not declared the McDonald's breakfast order before arriving last week at Darwin Airport in the country's Northern Territory. So this will be the most expensive Macca's meal this passenger ever has. Murray Walt, Australian Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, said Monday in a statement. This fine is twice the cost of an airfare to Bali, but I have no sympathy for people who choose to disobey Australia's strict biosecurity measures, and recent detections show you will be caught. The pup, named Zinta, that caught the hungry passenger has been specially trained as part of the Australian government's recent crackdown on imported food. Australia has eradicated foot and mouth disease and wants to ensure it doesn't get brought back into the country due to undeclared meat products, its government said. Australia is FMD free, and we want it to stay that way. While added of the fine for the Darwin Airport passenger. Zinta was placed at Darwin Airport as part of the Albanese government's tough new biosecurity defenses, and it's excellent to see she is already contributing to keeping the country safe. And the government has committed almost $10 million to further prosecute illegal imports and stop the spread of diseases, and airports there now have sanitation foot mats. Aussie officials are particularly concerned about flights from Indonesia, where cattle are experiencing a foot and mouth disease outbreak, according to CNN, and experts say an outbreak down under could cost the country's economy $80 billion. And here's the thing, right? I perfectly understand why a country would take, biosecurity very seriously in this kind of context. Like, if you basically were able to eradicate a certain disease and you want to try to prevent that, okay, I could kind of understand that. But at the same time, couldn't you have just told the guy to just quickly eat the food? You know? Let's see. Any comments? Oh, a lot of comments. Experienced a similar situation entering the US. I previously left the US with a cooked ham. Took it to my country in the Caribbean. Had no issues with local customs because it said cooked. On my return to the US, I brought along a ham sandwich. Didn't eat it on the plane after all, and when US Customs discovered it, they made me dump it. Fear of bringing disease into the US. Meanwhile, thousands of illegals walking in through Mexico, and they're just allowed in without scrutiny. See, this is the problem, right? People view border security in the United States as like a joke, right? Like, they view Border Patrol as a joke. They view people coming in through like airplanes, all you gotta do all this check in, check out kind of stuff, verification, all that kind of stuff, right? They view it as a joke because at the very same time, there's a whole bunch of people getting into the country illegally, not having to declare anything, obviously, and potentially are spreading very potential dangerous diseases. So I've brought back food items, cooking spices which were not meat products nor fresh fruit vegetables. Both are a no-no. Declared it, they scanned my bags, asked a few questions, and good to go. So I board the plane with breakfast food. I fly to Australia but don't eat it on the way. Are there no Mickey D's in Aussieland? Why buy it, bring it on the plane, and not eat it? I'm missing something here. It's called their laws and their rules. You Americans, contrary to belief, don't know everything. You're more than missing something, Gary. If the food is cooked, is there a threat of disease? Let's see. A good defense might be I was unaware, therefore not in willful possession. Maybe the hamburglar put them there. I only took my eyes off my bags for a moment in a very crowded airport. The airline's passenger just needs a competent attorney. McDonald's breakfast is a biohazard. Yeah, the English muffins tend to be a bit stale, and the slab of Canadian bacon is often a bit tough. I prefer the soft BK croissant, which with their tender and tasty ham, but a biohazard. I don't think that it qualifies since it's been cooked. Maybe they could have a sane judge look at this case. Australia, are these the same people who appeased their beloved government by willingly handing over their firearms to be destroyed by them? The same nation with almost no mass shootings, no dead children from home gun accidents, which are a national emergency in the US, rare when a spouse shoots a spouse, or even more rare shootings in road rage. Imagine that. Blah, blah, blah. These are the same people that had police officers walk into the middle of a church service and write tickets to people not wearing masks. Just another reason to never visit Australia. This crazy country locked down the citizens for years with the COVID fear mongering. Well, the airlines don't feed passengers good enough food. Besides, cooked food won't spread foot and mouth disease. Australia will lose this case in court with a good attorney. And this is the thing, right? Is it actually worth it going to like a court system in like a different country that you potentially don't even really live in, possibly, to fight something like this? No, not really. It's not really worth the money. If this was like $10,000, maybe it's worth it. If it's $50,000, it's definitely worth it. If it's $100,000, it's definitely worth it. But $1,000, probably not, because you probably end up spending more than that simply to even bring it to a judge in the first place. So it's not really something worth the hassle. If it was me, I'd probably just pay it and just move on with my life and basically just not take McDonald's to Australia. But, feel free to give your own thoughts. I just think that the thing is, if you're going to go travel overseas to another country legally, you have to know that there's restrictions by you doing it legally. Also, there's a lot of restrictions because you're not uber wealthy. If you're super wealthy, you could probably skirt away with a lot of things, but you're probably not, so you probably can't get away with something like this. And you're doing it legally, not illegally, like people who are coming down from the south up to the north into the United States through the Mexico border. That is done illegally, but they're able to get away with a lot of stuff by doing it illegally, right? They could bring in a lot of things that they really shouldn't be because they're doing it illegally, right? So, just something to really think about. If you're trying to go through the legal process of transporting to another country, you know, legally, all above board, then you also gotta be aware that, hey, something might end up happening. Not to mention, right? I think in some countries, when you get off the plane or whatever, before you go through the check, you basically write down if you have brought anything or if you have something on you and you declare it. And as long as you declare it, typically you will not, I believe, get fined or anything. If they find something and they don't really want you to have it at all, they'll just tell you to trash it or they'll get rid of it. So you could avoid the whole fine thing as well. And one thing's for sure, you never carry cash when transporting as well. That's another big thing. Never carry cash into a different country. Like, never do that. Like, ever. Like, at all. Never do that. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. I thought this was kind of interesting. Kind of an expensive McDonald's meal.